This is Jamie, mid-sentence, mid-heart attack, and mid-regretting every life choice that led to this exact moment. That glass office? That's Morgan's, the person who decides whether Jamie can afford groceries and streaming services in the same month. Right now, Jamie is trying to say, I'd like to discuss my compensation, but what actually just came out was, I was wondering if I could raise myself? The air is thick with secondhand embarrassment. And yes, everyone in the open office is pretending not to look while very much looking. Let's rewind. Before the sentence broke, and so did Jamie's soul. Earlier that morning, Jamie walked into the office like a person heading to a dentist who might or might not use anesthesia. The open-plan floor hummed with fluorescent lights, keyboard clacks, and that one loud laugher in the corner. Jamie's desk was a small island of sticky notes, a half-eaten granola bar, and a monitor filled with spreadsheets no one outside the building would ever understand. Somewhere under those spreadsheets was a salary that hadn't moved since the Stone Age of pre-inflation. Today, though, Jamie had decided something dangerous: to ask for a raise. Jamie sits down, opens the laptop, and stares at the email icon like it personally owes him back pay. A spreadsheet of completed projects sits proudly on the screen, a silent resume of, "You should be paying me more." Jamie's internal monologue fires up. "I've taken on extra work, hit every deadline, and trained 3 new hires. Surely this is reasonable." Then the anxious counter voice chimes in. Or maybe he'll just laugh, say no, and replace you with a printer that can also send emails. This is the battlefield. One brave soul versus his own nervous system. Across the room, Morgan is in his glass office, gliding between tabs and meetings like a human calendar notification. To Jamie, Morgan is an intimidating blend of cool mentor and final boss. Morgan's desk is spotless, laptop centered, plant thriving, not a single cable out of place. Everything the opposite of Jamie's sticky note chaos. Morgan checks his schedule, sips coffee, and casually approves budgets that cost more than Jamie's yearly salary. Meanwhile, Jamie is trying to psych himself up just to click new email. Jamie opens the notepad and writes a neat heading: Reasons I deserve a raise. Bullet points appear: increased responsibilities, consistently good performance, didn't quit during that one awful project. Each bullet looks solid on paper, heroic even. But as Jamie looks from the notepad to Morgan's office, those confident words morph into, "Please don't be mad, I'm sorry for existing." Still, somewhere between fear and desperation, a decision hardens. Today is the day. The catalyst arrives disguised as a notification from Jamie's banking app. One quick glance at a rent increase and a grocery bill later, and suddenly, this isn't theoretical anymore. It's survival math. Jamie leans back, stares at the ceiling tiles, and realizes his paycheck is politely losing to reality. The raise is no longer a nice-to-have. It's a please don't make me sell my couch situation. Fear meet urgency. Together, he's about to write an ill-advised plan. Jamie's first strategy: script everything. He opened a new document titled Raise Conversation Draft and typed out a full monologue, complete with polite greetings and backup arguments. It reads like a courtroom speech, respectful, logical, and slightly overdramatic. Jamie practices the lines quietly at his desk, mouthing phrases like, "I'd like to discuss how my contributions align with my compensation." To anyone watching, it looks like he's rehearsing for a low-budget legal drama. Meanwhile, Morgan is in the glass office clearing out a mountain of small fires. An urgent email, a rescheduled meeting, a budget adjustment request. He glances at his calendar, which looks like a game of Tetris played by a sadist. In the middle of that chaos, there's a 15-minute gap labeled open. It's the only free slot all day, a tiny window where someone could, theoretically, ask for something important. Morgan sighs, sips coffee, and mentally prepares for whatever fresh weirdness the day brings. Jamie spots Morgan walking toward the break area and panics. This is it, Jamie thinks, standing up so fast the chair rolls back a little. He takes 3 steps, raises a hand, then instantly aborts and pretends he was just stretching. Morgan walks right past, glancing briefly at Jamie, who is now doing an unconvincing side stretch like a person hiding from confrontation in a yoga pose. First attempt, absolute failure. Back at the desk, Jamie opens a messaging app and types a draft. "Hi, Morgan. Do you have a few minutes today to talk about my role in compensation?" Then he stares at it like it's a bomb that might go off if he hits send. Delete, retype, redelete. Finally, with a shaky breath, Jamie hits send and immediately wants to unplug the entire internet. On the other side of the glass, Morgan's laptop pings. Morgan reads the message, nods slightly, and types back, "Sure, can you come by my office in 10 minutes?" For Morgan, it's a straightforward, reasonable reply. For Jamie, it's a siren blaring, "You're up," in all caps. Heart pounding, Jamie checks his reflection in the dark monitor, tries to fix his crooked tie, and fails. 10 minutes has never moved so fast or felt so much like the final countdown. Jamie grabs the notepad of reasons, clutches the coffee tumbler like a stress ball, and rehearses the speech one last time while pacing between the desk and the hallway. Co-workers notice the pacing and exchange knowing looks. Everyone recognizes the about to talk to the boss walk. One co-worker gives Jamie a silent thumbs up, as if sending him into battle. Jamie nods back, breathing like he's about to attempt a marathon, not a conversation. The glass office door looms closer with every step. Jamie knocks lightly on the glass and Morgan waves him in with a polite, efficient smile. Jamie sits, places the notepad on his lap, and opens his mouth to start the carefully prepared script. Unfortunately, the brain decides to improvise. Instead of the polished line, Jamie blurts, "Hi, I wanted to talk about my financial situation as a human." The sentence hangs in the air like a balloon no one asked for. Morgan blinks once, then recovers with a calm, "Okay, tell me more." Jamie, trying to salvage his dignity, launches into a frantic mix of script and improvisation. "I mean, my role has expanded and, inflation is doing parkour on my bills, and I've taken on more responsibilities and trained new people, and I really appreciate the company, and..." It turns into a verbal traffic jam, with 3 arguments trying to merge into one sentence. Morgan listens, hands folded, letting Jamie's words crash into each other. Somewhere between the stammers, the point is visible. "I think I deserve a raise." And that brings us back to the moment we started with. Jamie. Mid-thought, mid-sentence, mid-spiral. The air is still. The glass office feels suddenly too small. And somewhere in the open floor, someone drops a pen and it sounds like an explosion. Jamie's inner monologue is screaming, "Abort! Say never mind! Fake a sneeze!" Instead, Jamie takes a shaky breath and manages one clear, honest line. "I'd like my pay to reflect the work I'm doing." For the first time, the room feels a little less terrifying. Morgan nods slowly, the way someone does when mentally flipping through several spreadsheets inside his head. "You've definitely taken on more lately," he says, finally speaking into the silence. Jamie's brain, primed for rejection, is briefly confused by the lack of immediate "no." Morgan asks about specific projects, impact, and results, and Jamie, now on more stable ground, lists them with growing confidence. The conversation shifts from raw panic to something almost professional. Turns out, clarity sounds less awkward than over-rehearsed speeches. Morgan explains that raises are tied to budgets, timing, and a process that moves slower than office Wi-Fi during a software update. He doesn't promise anything immediate, but he does say the dangerous, hopeful phrase, "Let me look into what's possible." Jamie feels both relief and disappointment at once, a strange emotional 2-for-1. Still, Jamie recognizes something important. He wasn't shut down. He was heard. Surviving the conversation suddenly feels like a win all by itself. Meeting over, Jamie steps out of the glass office into the open-plan arena, feeling like he just returned from a particularly intense boss fight. A couple of co-workers glance up, trying to read Jamie's expression. One raises an eyebrow in a silent, "Well?" Jamie shrugs, half smiling, and gives a small thumbs up that translates to, "I didn't die, and I maybe planted a seed." Applause doesn't break out, but the shared understanding is its own quiet celebration. Back at his desk, Jamie sits down and opens the Raise Conversation draft document. The carefully scripted speech now looks hilariously overly complicated compared to what actually happened. Jamie types a new line at the top. Reality version. Just say the honest thing sooner. He closes the document and, for once, doesn't immediately open his banking app. Awkward or not, he did the uncomfortable thing he'd been avoiding for months. A week later, an email from Morgan arrives, a formal note about a salary adjustment. Modest, but real, plus a line thanking Jamie for speaking up. Jamie reads it twice, then 3 times, just to make sure it isn't a prank from the universe. The memory of the awkward phrases and misfired sentences doesn't vanish, but it gets rewritten as proof that imperfection still counts. In the end, asking for a raise wasn't about becoming perfectly smooth. It was about being brave while visibly, undeniably awkward. And for most humans in offices everywhere, that's the only version that actually exists. And that's how one painfully awkward moment turned into a quiet win. If you've ever stumbled through a conversation like Jamie, remember, awkward is still brave. Speaking up, even when your voice shakes, counts. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this sketch, hit that like button, subscribe for more everyday stories, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.